The Slav Master, John Edward Robinson. In the spring of 2000, two women in the Kansas City area told police remarkably similar stories about a generous older businessman they had met through the internet, a man who had turned frightening in person. Investigators started pulling threads, comparing the two complaints, checking the man's record, and the threads ran backward through nearly 4 decades of paper. John Edward Robinson was a silver-haired grandfather, a former scout leader and church deacon who had once, through pure fraud, gotten himself named Man of the Year at a Kansas City charity luncheon. He was also a lifelong con artist, with an arrest record going back to the 1960s, and, as the digging would prove, something far worse. Women connected to him had been disappearing since the mid-1980s. Employees, tenants, women he had promised jobs and apartments, and in the most unthinkable threat of all, a young mother named Lisa Stasi had vanished in 1985, while her infant daughter turned up adopted, through paperwork Robinson forged, by Robinson's own unsuspecting brother, who raised the child for 15 years never knowing her mother was a victim. By the 1990s, Robinson had discovered the internet, and prosecutors would later describe him as the first known serial killer to use it to hunt. In chat rooms, he called himself Slave Master, meeting women interested in relationships of control and obedience, offering money and travel, drawing them to Kansas one at a time. In June 2000, after the two frightened women filed their complaints, police searched his rural property in Lynn County and found 2 sealed chemical drums, and in a Missouri storage locker rented under his name, 3 more. Inside the 5 barrels were 5 missing women, including 2 who had come to him through the screen, Isabella Luica and Suzette Troughton. Robinson was convicted and sentenced to death in Kansas in 2003, then pleaded guilty across the state line in Missouri to resolve the rest, and the daughter he had placed with his own brother learned, in her mid-teens, who she was and what had happened to her mother, a collateral cruelty that even this genre struggles to file. The internet did not create him, because he had been killing since before most homes had a computer. What the internet gave him was reach, a way to be a charming stranger in 1,000 places at once, and a lesson every case in this video repeats. The screen shows you exactly what the person behind it wants you to see. The false profile, Peter Chapman. In October 2009, a 17-year-old English student named Ashley Hall began chatting with a boy on Facebook, a fresh-faced teenager, whose profile pictures showed a stranger's borrowed face. The person typing was Peter Chapman, a 33-year-old registered sex offender with a record stretching back to his own teens, homeless, drifting between his car and the road, a man the monitoring system had lost track of entirely, flagged as missing by the police database for months, while he sat online, patient and methodical, building his lure one friendly message at a time. Ashley, a childcare student described by her family as trusting and kind, agreed to meet the boy from the profile. Chapman posed as the fictional boy's father, picking her up in his car, and Ashley, a careful girl in every way her world had taught her to be careful, texted her mother that she was staying at a friend's house. She was found the next day in a field. Chapman was arrested within hours, stopped by chance for a routine vehicle check on a nearby road, and something in him folded on the spot. He confessed almost immediately, telling the astonished traffic officers they were looking for a murderer, and led investigators to her. He pleaded guilty and was ordered to serve a minimum of 35 years, and Britain tore into the failures that had left a supposedly monitored offender invisible for months. But the case's lasting weight was cultural. Ashley Hall's murder became the case that taught a generation of parents what the phrase catfishing means, that a profile is a costume, and that the checks young people run on strangers, mutual friends, photographs, chat history, were all things one man in a parked car could forge with an afternoon's effort. The medical student, Philip Markoff. In April 2009, a masseuse named Julissa Brisman advertised her services on Craigslist and booked an appointment at a Boston hotel. The clean-cut young man who arrived robbed her at gunpoint and, when she fought, killed her. Police soon connected the attack to robberies of other women booked through the same site in Boston and Rhode Island, days apart, an accelerating pattern that had every hallmark of a beginning rather than an end. And the digital trail did what digital trails do. IP addresses from the emails led to an apartment in Quincy, and the man living there was Philip Markoff, a 23-year-old Boston University medical student, engaged to be married, polite, promising, the least likely face the tabloids could have hoped for, and they named him the Craigslist killer within the day. The evidence recovered was overwhelming. The gun, the zip ties, victim's property hidden inside a hollowed-out anatomy textbook, a detail that felt like the whole story in one object. Markov never faced a jury. 16 months after his arrest, on what would have been his wedding date, he ended his life in his cell, and police closed the case. The courts left with charges proven to everyone except a verdict. The man who wanted to be seen, Luka Magnotta. Most killers in this series hid from attention. Luka Magnotta was starving for it. A failed model and aspiring celebrity in Canada, he spent years manufacturing an online presence, fake fan pages, planted rumors, forum posts praising himself under invented names, and when fame would not come for anything good, he began posting videos of animal cruelty, killing kittens on camera for an audience of the horrified. Something remarkable happened then. Ordinary internet users, sickened by the videos, formed a group to identify him. Amateur sleuths, who spent months analyzing backgrounds, electrical outlets, blankets, and metadata, and they warned, publicly and repeatedly, that the man making these videos would escalate to a person. In May 2012, he did. Magnotta murdered a Chinese engineering student named Jun Lin in Montreal, filmed it, posted the video online, and mailed parts of his victim to political parties and schools, then flew to Europe as the manhunt went global. He was caught in Berlin in a way no novelist would dare invent, sitting in an internet cafe, reading news coverage about himself. An employee recognized the most wanted face in Europe from the very stories he was scrolling. Magnotta was extradited, convicted of first-degree murder in 2014, and sentenced to life, and the amateur sleuths who had tracked him for years and been dismissed as obsessives were vindicated in the darkest possible way. The internet had given him everything he used: the persona, the audience, the stage. And then it took everything back, because the same crowd he performed for was the crowd that identified him, and the same feed he refreshed for fame was the one that told a cafe employee exactly who was sitting at Terminal 9. 4 killers, 1 machine, 4 different uses of it. Robinson used the screen as reach. Chapman used it as a costume. Markov used it as a catalog, browsing victims the way the site's other users browsed furniture. Magnotta used it as a stage. The screen is a lure, a costume, a catalog, a stage, and finally a trap, all at once. And it did not change what these men were. It changed their range. A predator was once limited to the people who could physically cross his path. A neighborhood, a route, a town, and the internet removed that limit for the worst people alive at the exact moment it removed it for everyone else, which is the bargain no one was consulted on. But notice how every one of these cases ended: an IP address, a routine database check, a digital trail through emails and phones, a cafe newsfeed refreshed one time too many. The screen works both directions. It extended their reach, and then it remembered everything they did with it, because the internet never forgets anyone, including the people who most needed it to.